Welcome, everyone, to the Bucks County Living Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Neff, your real estate resource. Today, I am joined by Jenny Shaeffer, the owner of Phoenix Art Supplies and Framing in Doylestown. Good morning, Jenny. How are you?
Good morning, Alex. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for coming out and coming all the way to Newtown from Doylestown, from Phoenix Art Supplies and Framing. I'm so excited to talk about you and the store and what you guys do in Bucks County.
Great. Thanks so much.
So, first, I'd like to know a background about you because art supplies and framing businesses they get gobbled up by the big box retailers. So I know you're the last independently owned store in Bucks County.
Right.
How did you get into this business?
So the framing end of it, I got into very early. It was my first job out of high school. And as an art student, my dad was helping me, get a job. And he said, hey, there's a frame shop down the road. Maybe you should check that place out. I didn't know it would be my love and passion. And it's something I've done for 40 years now. So the framing end is pretty easy. I was hired by Phoenix 15 years ago to manage their framing department. And I have been in this business a long time and built that part of the business up. And the art supplies, I've actually been a painter since I was like 3 years old. And I took a lot of classes and painted throughout my career. And so I was very familiar with a lot of different art supplies. But working at Phoenix, I was educated on the supplies and got to really know the different materials very well. So when I bought the business 2 years ago, I was very well versed in not only the framing, but the art supplies as well.
Wow. So as far as the framing goes, do you have to know like different types of wood and different types of material and picking or helping your client pick what style frame and what color frame is going to go best with the artwork or the picture that they're trying to frame?
Sure. You need to know color theory really well. But to me, you have to know more about history and trends, because framing, you can pick a frame and any frame can hold your picture on the wall, but to match the decor or the essence of the picture that you're framing, you really want a frame that fits it historically, and you want a frame that fits the image. You listen to the client. It's really about listening and finding out what the atmosphere of the picture where they're going to be hanging it. And you have to get a sense of their decor and a sense of what they want. But there are definitely, like I used to take my kids to the museums and I say, now see that gilded frame that has the black over it and etched away? That is called sgraffito. That's probably an Italian painting. And we'd go up and sure enough, it was an Italian painting. Or that big black frame is a Dutch frame. So that's probably a Dutch painting. So those things are important to know. So when people come in with artwork, you want to know what type of frame is really going to accent the artwork the best. And my whole job is to elevate artwork. They come in with a simple picture. What's the very best thing to put on that picture to make it look as best as it can be? Because otherwise you're wasting your money, So I'm doing it for the long term.
Wow. That's incredible because you never really think about everything that goes behind the scenes to complement the picture, because sometimes myself as just a regular consumer, right? I look at a piece of art or I look at a picture, I might not be focused on the frame.
You don't want to be focused on the frame,
right?
But you want it to complement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want it to complement and not overbear
right.
or completely blot out the beauty
right.
that is in the picture.
Exactly. So that's part of the joy I get is a person comes in and I have to listen to them and then I'm like, oh, got it. And people actually get angry sometimes because I'll pick out the frame on the first thing because I've nailed it. And they're like, well, that's no fun. But, it's a fun thing for me.
Yeah. Now, what other kind of art supplies do you sell at Phoenix? Because it sounds like you cover a wide variety of different things.
We do. We're a small store, but we're very curated. The art supplies that we carry, it's a little bit of everything except for some airbrush supplies and sculpting supplies. It's hard for me to keep clay in stock. But it's for painters, drawers, every level. Acrylics, oils, pastels, and we have a few different brands for each level of art that's being created. And so we really have something for everybody, but the products that I have, I've tried them. I know they're good products. We might not have the hugest selection, but it's very curated, and I can recommend products for people.
So will you, I guess, talk to artists on a regular basis
I
about,
do, yeah.
I'm doing contemporary style and what would work best for that? Or
Definitely.
okay,
My clients know me. The customers that come in, even first timers, I get to know them. I get to know what kind of work they're doing, what are their needs. I can point them in the right direction. They show me their pictures on their phones, and they really share their artwork with me so that I can best help them in what they're looking for. And
Wow.
we like solving problems there. People come in and they're like, I need a brush, but I need a brush that does this. I'm like, okay. And the most fun thing is they can try things out at my store. I'm like, try this, see how you feel about it. So that's what makes us very different.
I love that. So
Yeah.
the try before you buy.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, not with everything, but with a lot of stuff. Yeah, I can let them try it out.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's
So Phoenix Art Supply has been in business for 40 years, and you've been the owner of it for
a year and a half.
a year and a half. Oh, wow. So this is still pretty fresh.
It's pretty fresh.
Wow. So
Yeah.
how did you transition? Because you were managing their framing department,
That's
you
right.
said 15 years ago.
Yes.
And then, I'm curious to hear. I love hearing stories. I'm kind of weird
Sure.
like that, right? Where I love hearing business owners that are transitioning into their next chapter of life
Yes.
via retirement, and people that have such a passion for the business and start to morph the business into their own while still
Right.
keeping the fundamentals there.
Right.
So could you tell me a little bit about the journey from being the manager, and then now
Yeah.
the owner?
Sure. So when I was brought on as framing manager, the owner at the time was Margaret Matheson, and Margaret and I worked together, and she taught me everything she knew about the business. She was really grooming me, and the plan was that she would eventually retire and I would buy the business. That was our intention. Then the pandemic hit, so our plans had to be put on hold just to make sure that we would survive the pandemic. A lot of small businesses did not survive. So at that time, I was able to keep the business open by reaching out on social media and taking orders online and delivering art supplies to people, meeting people. People would call me from Philadelphia looking for a tube of white paint, and I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you in the parking lot of Home Depot. And it really made me tough. I got very scrappy, and I think that trained me really well for owning the business, because at that time, Margaret being a little bit elderly and ready to retire, she didn't come in. And I was just kind of on my own, and I was like, all right, let's make this happen to make sure it's healthy so that I can purchase the business. And so last January, we went through with the purchase, and it's been great. And my husband, Chuck, comes in and helps me out once in a while, and I have a great staff. And that's my journey of ownership with this business.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what are some notable projects that you've worked on in Bucks County? Because Doylestown is just such a cultural hub.
It is.
With a ton of wonderful museums. What were some projects that you've worked on?
So I've done framing and helped out with the Mercer Museum and the Michener Museum. The Mercer is interesting because they'll bring me a lot of historical documents, and they bring me old frames that I repurpose to the correct size so that they have historical frames that are on their pieces. So that's kind of fun. I've worked with a lot of different, let's see, Bucks County IU, they have a fantastic art collection, and they bring me their pieces in, and I clean them and reframe them, a lot of times using their same frames, but restoring a little bit, or finding new frames for their collection. That's really fun. I'm trying to think, there's so many different companies that I've worked with. I've also partnered with Children's Hospital, not doing framing, but actually supplying them with art supplies for an art program that they do there. And then they bring me in to sell my art supplies once a year, and that's really fun. The Hirschfeld Foundation, I work with Al Hirschfeld's artwork, providing matting and stuff for their traveling show and doing framing for them.
Wow.
So those are some of the different partnerships I've made over the years with different foundations and stuff, and that's been great. I get just as much joy, though, out of an artist comes in with their collection, and how do we find a frame that represents their work, the best. So we go through everything and then try them all out, and that's really fun too. So yeah, I've been really lucky to partner with all these different organizations.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, the framing process, because so my wife does some woodworking as the millennial side hustle, right?
Sure.
So she does a lot of woodworking. She has like a scroll saw, and she just got this crazy looking laser from China. I mean, the thing is insane. So now, like by my wife doing it, obviously now I'm a part of it, right?
Right.
So I'm curious about the process for framing, and I guess picking out the different types of wood. And do you like have a lathe in the back where you're making these pieces? Where you're what's the process?
So my process is I base my framing on, I want the most selection available. So I have like 3,000 corner samples. When you walk into my frame gallery, I actually work with a lot of decorators and designers who use my gallery with their clients to pick frames because there's so many. I have like 28 different companies I work with. The easiest way to do this is they cut the frames because I've measured and I have them shipped to me, and then I build them upstairs in our workshop and do the matting and the glazing and everything. So everything happens within our shop. It never leaves our store. But for the most part, I'm having manufacturers cut the wood and send it to me. I do have a saw upstairs. I can cut and adjust things. I do that mostly for when I'm repurposing old frames where I'm tearing them apart and I need to cut them and rebuild them. But because of saving time, and also money, like I don't want to stock frames. A lot of people stock their own frames and they can charge a little less for their frame, but those frames can go bad over time if they're not in a perfectly heat and air conditioned environment. And it's just a lot of real estate to have a lot of selection. So I prefer having a larger selection and not stocking molding. And that's basically my process. So we select a frame, I order it, it comes in within a week or so if we're lucky, if everything's in stock. And thank God we're getting back to a little bit closer to normal now, because there were times where I was calling the companies. I'm like, when do you think it's coming in? 6 months from now? What other options do we have? It's a little crazy, but that's my process. That's how I do it.
Yeah, I was thinking because for you to have almost 3,000 corner samples, you're picturing, I mean, I'm picturing like an Amazon warehouse filled with just these lengths of wood that are ready to be cut down, lengths of metal that are ready to be cut down. And you don't think about the inventory management,
right?
Because that's a whole supply chain thing.
That's a supply chain.
I mean, we wear a lot of different hats as business owners,
right?
But sometimes supply chain management is just a full-time and a half job itself.
Definitely.
So that's I was curious because that's that's it's a nice size store, and I was like, I don't see
how I would store the thing. I mean, there's different models. I mean, some people do have inventory, but again, I don't want to store it, and I don't want to keep that heat and air conditioning for the wood. And some people just order frames pre-built and put them together, and some people send out artwork. A lot of shops just send the artwork to a warehouse where they frame it and send it back, but I keep everything in-house, and that's really important to me.
Yeah, see, I'd be kind of scared of that.
Me too.
If I'm working on a masterpiece for 6 months to a year,
Me
and
too.
Next thing you know, I got to roll it up and ship it out to some place, to out of state somewhere. And
yep, it happens.
Yeah, and God forbid it, because there's just too many hands
too many
this
things
thing.
That could happen, right?
Yes.
And a lot of the stuff we work on is very valuable, and we really want to keep hands-on. Like if I'm taking in the project, it's me or one other person that's even going to touch it. So I don't have like a workshop full of people up there doing the work. It's me or one other person.
Right.
So it's very small, very personable. And when you communicate to me exactly how you want it to be handled, that's how I handle the work. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I take a lot of pride in what I do.
It's clear that you're very passionate about this. And so your dad had suggested that you check out the frame shop when you were just a kid?
Yeah, he's like, you're good at art. There's a frame shop right around the corner. Why don't you go check it out? I worked for that guy for 17 years, ended up managing his framing department. And it's so weird because this was in New Jersey. He was from Doylestown, never, didn't put those things together. And he walked into my store a couple years ago And he had moved to North Carolina, but he was there for his 50th class reunion. And it
Wow.
was just weird how it comes full circle.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it's pretty neat.
incredible. So I know we've talked at length about the different things that Phoenix Art Supplies and
Hmm.
Framing does, but what's something that you feel like makes your business stand out from the big box retailers?
We're nothing like the big box retailers. We are personable. Like I said, we know the customers when they walk in the door. I know what they want. Oh, you're here for that paper. Oh, they place orders with me. We are just very hands on and personable. Um, we we're just nothing like them. You can ask us questions. We help solve problems with you. I don't want a person to waste money buying things that aren't correct. So many times you order online materials or get them from a box store and you don't know how that paint's going to work. Well, I can tell you, I can show you, you can try it yourself. So those things differentiate me from a big box store immensely. It's just a whole different shopping experience. It's very personable. It's more I don't know, it's just a small happy family. It's like a boutique in a way. It's really pleasant to walk in. It's pretty, and we have fun giftware too. People buy gifts there, cards and things like that.
Yeah, you
So,
walk into some of these big box retailers, it seems so sterile, like a hospital setting almost.
and even trying to find somebody to answer a question can be hard.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting them down because there's a place for that too. And a lot of my employees have come from that background, and they bring a different type of experience to the business. So there's a place for all of us. But this is what I do, and that's what makes me unique.
I love that. I love small businesses. I'm such a huge supporter of small
Me
businesses.
too. I feel a real kinship with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're the backbone of the American economy, and it's just it's unfortunate that these big box retailers there's definitely a need for them,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't get that same personal level of care
Right.
that I think everybody really values, and
It
that's what stands out.
it's what's important to me, and it's what I feel that my business is there to serve the art community. I'm not there to just make a ton of money off of the art community. I'm there to serve the art community. So when someone has something and they're like, I really would love for you to carry this product, I was like, great, I'll do that for you. Or, I work with the art community. And so I want to be there to help elevate their work, help elevate the paintings and stuff that they're doing by giving them good products, and also how to display their work the best as possible. So that's what I feel my job is.
I think that's why we hit it off right away because we're in business to not just to make a quick buck, it's to serve the
It's
community
right.
in something that we're passionate about.
That's right.
So I couldn't have said it better myself. That's incredible. Next, I like to move into a segment called the Big Three.
Okay.
So these are three questions that I ask absolutely everybody that comes onto the podcast.
All right.
So Jenny, my first question for you is, what do you think makes Bucks County a great place to live?
So I absolutely love Bucks County. I feel the best thing about Bucks County, it's proximation to the two biggest cities, like in the United States, two of the biggest cities, and you can get culture because of that. You're like an hour away from New York or a half an hour from Philadelphia. You can go to plays, to shows, to hear music, but that has spilled over into Bucks County. A lot of people live here that perform in these cities. So it makes it very culturally rich, but not too far away from the cities. But coming from New Jersey and just moving over the Pennsylvania border, I just felt my shoulders relax a little bit. So Bucks County has this cultural richness, but there's also a sense of space. And I love the river. The Delaware River is my favorite. And just those are all things that I love about Bucks County.
I love that.
And the history. The history.
Ton of history
Yeah,
here.
ton of history.
Great location.
Yeah.
Which is probably why we have a ton of history.
Right, right.
Awesome. Now, what are some of your favorite restaurants in Bucks County?
Oh gosh, I really love. I think it's 59 Alms House in Richboro. I love the atmosphere there, and every bit of food I've ever eaten there is just unique and great. I tend to like weird little bars too to eat at. I really love the Farmhouse restaurant in Doylestown, which is just kind of not one of the big fancy restaurants, but I love it there. It just makes me feel at home. I like places that make me feel at home. So
That's awesome. And my last question, Jenny, is where can people find out more about you and Phoenix Art Supplies and Framing?
PhoenixArtSupplies.com, or come into my store right on 611 south of Doylestown.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this morning,
Thank you,
Jenny.
Alex.
I'm really excited to continue to watch your success and the success of Phoenix Art Supplies. 40 years is definitely no small feat. And now being in this as the owner, the sole proprietor for a year and a half now, I'm super excited to see the continued growth and trajectory of the business. So
Well, thank you so much, Alex.
thank you. And as always, I'm your host, Alex Neff. Make sure to reach out if you have any questions about Bucks County living.